How you know? Eh? How you know? Kodak, you gonna get a retwist on? Hell no. I don't twist my hair. I don't do shit to it. I ain't gonna let nobody do my shit. I ain't let nobody touch my shit. I ain't let nobody touch my head, play in my head. Do none of that, bro.
What happens when Kodak Black, hip-hop's most unpredictable truth-teller, decides he's had enough of the industry's games? Simple. The internet explodes, the labels panic, and Hollywood's group chats go silent. This isn't your usual rapper goes live moment. No mumbling, no trolling, just Kodak with fire in his eyes and a Wi-Fi connection strong enough to burn down the whole machine. He didn't just speak his mind, he exposed everything. We're talking about backroom deals, fake friendships, snakes in designer suits, and secrets so dirty you'd think the Illuminati hired a PR team. Imagine Kanye's Twitter meltdown mixed with 50 Cent's savagery and Tupac's passion. That's what Kodak brought to Instagram Live. And the best part, he didn't care who was watching. Labels, execs, fellow rappers, everyone got scorched. The live was pure chaos, part confession, part revolution, and part spiritual cleansing. It made the Kardashians look like Disney characters. The man dropped bombs like he was allergic to silence, and now the industry's not just watching, it's terrified. Because Kodak didn't just call them out. He named names, exposed patterns, and cracked open the code they've spent decades protecting. This isn't gossip. This is war. The night started like any other. Kodak Black scrolling through his phone, fans flooding his DMs, industry folks pretending everything was fine. But you know how it goes. The calm before the storm always looks peaceful until someone lights a match. And this time Kodak didn't just light one, he torched the whole industry. No warnings, no PR filter, just Kodak, on live, with that look. The one that says, "I'm about to ruin somebody's career tonight." Within seconds, fans poured in. 10,000 viewers, then 50,000, then 200,000. The chat was flooding faster than Kris Jenner can say spin the narrative. Everyone knew something was up, because Kodak doesn't go live for fun. When Yak's on camera, it's either chaos or confession. And boy, this was confession time. He started calm, too calm, sipping water, staring at the screen, that Florida drawl kicking in slow like he was setting a scene. "Y'all ever wonder why certain rappers just disappear?" he said, smirking. The comments section exploded. "What you mean, Yak? Who you talking about?" Then he leaned in. "It ain't because they fell off. It's because they ain't playing the game no more." Boom. Silence. The type of silence that hits harder than a diss track. Kodak wasn't talking about rap beefs. He was talking about the system, the machine, the unspoken contract every artist signs the moment they taste fame. Sell your truth, sell your soul, but don't ever tell what you saw behind the curtain. But Kodak, he tore that curtain off like he was redecorating. He started listing moments, not names, not yet, but situations that had fans' jaws on the floor. They put you in rooms where everybody fakes smiling, trying to size you up. "They'll give you jewelry before they give you peace," he said. "You think you in control, but they already decided how long you gon' last." The man was preaching like a pastor at the Church of Broken Contracts. He didn't need a Bible. He had receipts. He said one label offered him a gift right after he got out of prison. Private jets, endorsements, photo ops. But every blessing came with invisible strings. "They ain't helped me 'cause they love me," Kodak said. "They help me 'cause I make pain profitable." That line, instantly immortal. Fans screenshotted it like scripture. People forget, Kodak's not dumb. He plays the fool, sure, talks wild, sure, but behind that chaos is a mind sharper than an exec's lawyer. He's seen every side of this business. The fame, the fallout, the fake family. He's the perfect insider-outsider hybrid. The man who made it and saw through it. He went on, They tell you, just focus on the music, but they don't tell you that the minute you stop being easy to control, they turn you into a headline. The comments went nuclear. Yak talking about somebody specific. Is this about Atlantic? This sound like industry exposed vibes, and that's when he dropped the first bomb. I ain't gonna say who, he started, but one of them big dogs told me straight up, Yak, stop talking too much. The people up top don't like when you make them nervous. Boom. Another silence. You could hear hearts dropping through the Wi-Fi. The crazy part, he wasn't angry. He was calm. Almost too calm. He said it like a man who'd already accepted that telling the truth might cost him everything. Fans started digging right away. Twitter detectives pulled up old interviews, old posts, anything that matched the timeline. Within 30 minutes, people had theories connecting Kodak to multiple label power players. Some said this was about his old deal with Atlantic. Others swore he was calling out execs tied to big streaming deals. And you know what happens when the internet starts digging. It becomes a digital witch hunt. Blogs like Say Cheese TV and The Neighborhood Talk were posting every 10 minutes. Kodak. Black Spark's massive industry scandal. Kodak says they feed off pain in viral rant. Fans think he just called out major label CEOs. It was chaos. The live went from messy to historic in under 20 minutes. Kodak's words had rhythm, like poetry dipped in gasoline. He said, they make you think beefs sell records. Nah, drama sells control. They own the cameras, the blogs, the playlists, the press. You ain't famous unless they say so. You ain't finished until they decide. He paused, looked into the camera, and said, you ever wonder why they love to see rappers die young? 'Cause they can make more money off your legacy than your life. That line froze the internet. People stopped laughing. Even his biggest critics had to admit. The man was saying things no one else dared to say. He wasn't exposing a person. He was exposing a pattern. The kind of truth that makes you uncomfortable because deep down, you know it's real. He said, they want you lost, high, wild, crazy, 'cause sober and focused don't sell interviews. Then he smirked. But guess what? I'm still here, still rich, still loud, and now I'm talking. Fans flooded the comments with, he ain't lying. Someone check on these labels. But you know the rule of the industry. The moment someone starts telling too much truth, they label it madness. So while Kodak was still live, blogs started posting, fans worried for Kodak after concerning rant. Classic move. Spin it before it sticks. But Kodak was ready. He said, they gon' say I'm crazy after this. Just remember who owns the media. He smiled. That eerie, knowing smile that said he'd seen things no artist should see. Then he started talking about the ritual rooms, the events everyone jokes about but nobody confirms. They invite you to weird parties. They say it's networking, but it don't feel right. Too many eyes, not enough souls. The comments exploded. Yak talking about the Illuminati. He's done after this, but Kodak didn't stop. They can't cancel me, he said. They don't own me anymore. And that was the moment the world realized. This wasn't a meltdown. It was a declaration. He'd spent years playing their game. He'd danced on red carpets, done the interviews, said the sound bites. But now, he was burning the playbook live in front of millions. By the time he hit the 30-minute mark, you could feel the shift. This wasn't Kodak the rapper. This was Kodak the whistleblower. He ended that first live saying, the truth don't make friends, but it make freedom. Why? Then he logged off. No outro, no music, no warning. The silence that followed felt biblical. Twitter lost its mind. Kodak Black just ended the industry, one tweet said. Another read, they gon' accidentally shut down his Wi-Fi next. TikTok was flooded with conspiracy edits. YouTube channels uploaded clips titled, The Live That Scared the Labels, and Kodak just spoke the words they fear. Everyone, fans, haters, execs, felt it. The shift, the exposure, the unraveling of a system that thought it was untouchable. And the craziest part? The live was just the beginning. Because once the words left Kodak's mouth, the industry went into full panic mode. And the truth he dropped was only the first domino to fall. The instant the stream cut, the timeline didn't breathe. It erupted. Group chats lit up like emergency beacons. Blogs moved like they had sirens on top. People weren't asking, "Did you see Kodak's live?" They were asking, "How fast? Can they spin it?" Because everyone knows the playbook. A truth bomb drops. The machine calls it a meltdown. And somewhere, a PR team drafts a statement that smells like lavender and lies. Headlines sprinted across feeds. Clips hit every page that ever posted a rapper's mugshot for clicks. The captions tried to steer the story. Kodak sparks concern. Kodak's late-night rant alarms fans. But under those headlines, the comments were ruthless. Concerned when he tells the truth. Silent when they exploit him, one wrote. Another said, "Funny how mental health only trends when someone exposes a paycheck." While pages argued semantics, the fans did what they do best, turned chaos into culture. Memes flew in a flock. Someone edited Kodak as a glitch in the Matrix, crimson text across the screen. Pick a contract or pick your conscience. Someone else posted him with a saint's halo made of broken NDAs. It wasn't mockery, it was mythology. In a single night, the man went from controversial hitmaker to the folk hero of resistance. And then he went quiet. Not the shaky silence of someone rattled, calm silence. The kind that says, chess, not checkers. That stillness broke the internet's nerves. "Where's Yak?" trended by breakfast. Conspiracy threads multiplied like gremlins after midnight. A few swore he'd already recorded a diss to the entire business. Others said meetings were happening in rooms where the windows don't open and the phones don't ring. 24 hours later, he tapped the glass. "Y'all don't even know half of it. I'm just getting started." 9 words. Full blackout. The quote ricocheted through feeds like a silver bullet. If the first live was a spark, that tweet was gasoline. Executives refreshed, like there was a prize for panic. Fans preheated the popcorn. Journalists who had dismissed him started drafting think pieces titled with question marks, just in case. 2 sunsets after the blast, he came back. No chain, no entourage, just a hoodie, a stare, and the energy of someone who buried fear next to his first contract. He didn't warm up, he didn't wink. He looked straight into the camera and said, "You think I'm capping? Prove me wrong. If I'm lying, sue me." The chat went feral. You could feel thousands of pulses climbing in sync. He pivoted. "Half your favorites ain't artists, they assets. Built, bought, and babysat. Sold like sneakers and protected like stock. The words didn't land, they detonated. You could practically hear keyboards clacking in boardrooms you'll never see." The machine rolled out phase 2. Experts. Articles appeared with the same 3 paragraphs cloned across 5 outlets. Industry insiders deny manipulation. Mental. Health professionals urge caution. Conspiracy. Culture harms communities. It sounded thoughtful if you didn't remember who buys. Those ad slots at the bottom of the page, but the public wasn't chewing the script. The more they sent in professionals, the more fans responded with receipts. Old clips resurfaced. Artists describing ghosted royalty statements, shrunken advances, playlists that mysteriously opened and closed like velvet ropes. One thread stitched together a decade of interviews from names who never sit together, yet somehow told the same story. The chorus was simple. The money loves your tragedy, not your growth. Inside the culture, big voices started tapping a knee on the floorboards. A few said it out loud. "He's not lying, he's loud." Others reposted without comment, signal flares disguised as silence. And the ones who pretended not to see, their comments filled with fans writing, "Blink twice if your contract won't let you speak." Then the algorithm did that thing the algorithm always does when truth catches rhythm. It tripped. Search bars served everything except the obvious. New uploads vanished under old interviews. Sounds muted themselves like they had stage fright. Pages posting raw clips caught mysterious violations. Someone compiled a timeline of missing uploads and called it The Great Scrub Down. The title wasn't subtle, neither was the message. Kodak didn't fold into the fog. He doubled his volume. A quick post, no punctuation. The truth don't need promo. 5 words that looked like a t-shirt and sounded like a thesis. They spread like graffiti. They read like scripture. The phrase parked itself in bios from Miami to Manchester. You can't shadow ban a slogan once people tattoo it on their pages. And then he fed the fire a verse. No rollout, no playlist handshake, just a link and a dare. A freestyle that snapped like handcuffs unlocking. The beat crept like headlights in a rearview mirror. The hook held a threat and a prayer. They call it crazy when you say it plain, but silence is a cage and I broke the chain. Fans didn't just stream it. They studied it. Reaction channels called it a mission statement. Commenters wrote dissertations under a SoundCloud waveform. Behind the curtain, retaliation wore polite clothes. Playlists got refreshed. Videos lost ads they'd never asked for. A couple of stations suddenly reviewed songs they'd spun all month. It was all legal, all tidy, all louder than any cease and desist. The point wasn't to erase him. The point was to teach a lesson in volume. The culture heard the lesson and turned him up. Because every new nudge against the message felt like proof the message hit home. Buildings in Miami flickered with projected quotes after dark. Pop-up murals of his face bloomed like wildflowers. Crown crooked, eyes clear, captions reading, ownership or obituary. A college media class assigned the live as homework and asked the question that keeps breaking billion-dollar plans. What changes if artists tell the truth together? The Suit and Tie playbook tried a new chapter. Character. Whispers about erratic behavior floated to blogs that pay rent with rumor. Someone who knows someone claimed he'd burned bridges, and then he tossed their script back at them. They want to test my body, because my word's too strong. Translation. The only lab I'm stepping into is the studio. Meanwhile, artists you'd never expect started saying the quiet part with careful mouths. Independence is the goal. Ownership season. Reading my paperwork today. They weren't giving him credit. They were giving him company. Movements don't need mascots. They need momentum. He'd already supplied that. The rest was muscle memory, and still he didn't grandstand. He slipped onto smaller, unbought mics. Independent pods and homegrown channels. No glossy staging, no agenda, just a voice explaining how contracts turn into cages when you ignore the hinges. He talked leverage like a street philosopher. He described energy tax like a pastor with receipts. He laughed in that soft way people do when they've already made peace with the bill coming due. Now the panic wore a new face. Curiosity from places that normally keep their elbows off our table. A streamer, one of the big house names, kicked tires on a dock pitch with a title that sounded like a threat. Rumors, sure, but you could feel the corporate tremor. They'll greenlight 1,000 fake scandals before they platform one real blueprint. If they're lingering, the math changed. Then came the Phantom Channel. Anonymous avatar, grainy audio, clips cut from rooms we're not supposed to know exist. Exec voices not saying anything illegal, just saying the quiet things plainly. Narrative, cadence, control. Real, fake, spliced? In the court of culture, the verdict wasn't about chain of custody. It was about pattern. People didn't ask, is it authentic? They asked, does it sound familiar? The answer made the rounds like a chorus. For every concerned headline that fell from a legacy outlet, 10,000 stitches tied fan testimony together. For every muted sound, 10 duets sprouted. For every pulled clip, a compilation, twice as long, landed on a different platform with a caption that read, "You can't bury a seed." The machine had muscle. The people had momentum. Guess which one sprints longer. So what happens after a week like that? Reputations molt. Friends separate from beneficiaries. The phrase industry plant starts tasting like old coffee in the mouths that tossed it around carelessly for clout. Suddenly, the term independent stops being aesthetic and starts being a strategy meeting. And the kid with Pro Tools on a cracked laptop thinks, maybe I don't need you like you think I do. Kodak didn't claim leadership. He didn't print a manifesto. He did something quieter and stronger. He made telling the truth look survivable. Not easy, not free, but survivable. He looked into the camera and broke the oldest superstition in our business. That if you speak on the structure swallows you. He spoke. He's still here. That alone shook more rooms than the bars ever could. By the end of the week, even the folks who laughed at him on Monday were quoting him on Friday. Careful to say artists where they mean us. The industry didn't stop moving. It started limping. And every limp is a map to a weak knee. That's what scares the gatekeepers. Weak knees can't keep gates. Will there be blowback? Always. Will there be attempts to rewrite the last 7 days as a foggy misunderstanding or a teachable moment? Absolutely. But the culture already clipped the highlights and filed them under reference. The genie didn't leave the bottle. The bottle shattered. And somewhere, in a studio that smells like hustle and late nights. A voice is warming up over a beat that sounds like steel doors unlocking. Not a clapback, an invitation. Not a tantrum, the terms. Ownership or nothing. Purpose over PR. The truth don't need promo. If they're smart, they'll listen. If they're stubborn, they'll trend. Either way, the next time a contract hits a desk, a question will hit harder. Is this comfort or control? That's the quiet revolution he sparked. Not fireworks, flashlights. They said the industry was shook. That was generous. The industry is awake, and that's scarier, for them, than any diss could ever be. By the time the smoke cleared, Kodak Black wasn't just trending, he was haunting the entire music industry. Executives weren't sleeping, PR agents were chain-smoking, labels were calling emergency meetings like their empire had sprung a leak, because it had. And Kodak was the one who poked the hole. He didn't just expose names, he exposed patterns. The blueprint of the machine they thought nobody would ever notice. Suddenly, every rapper who'd ever been silenced, blackballed, or mysteriously dropped was back on the timeline like ghosts demanding justice. Was back on the timeline like ghosts demanding justice. Fans started piecing things together. Wait, one tweet said. Didn't Megan say something similar last year? Another pointed out. Juice WRLD, X, Pop Smoke, Nipsey, all young, all rebellious, all suddenly gone. The thread had 2 million views in an hour. The streets didn't need proof anymore. The pattern was the proof, and that's what scared the system most. The shift from shock to belief. Kodak had turned suspicion into scripture. The same media that mocked him a week ago suddenly changed tone. Words like prophetic, raw, and necessary started creeping into headlines. The same blogs that called him unstable now said, Kodak raises uncomfortable questions about the industry. Oh, now they cared about ethics. Please, the machine doesn't grow a conscience overnight. It just changes its filter when the backlash gets too loud. But the damage was already done. Rappers who'd once stayed silent started hinting. Lil Baby tweeted, "Watch who control your masters." Moneybagg Yo posted, "Don't let them play you like a playlist." Even Lil Durk jumped in with, "If you know, you know." The cryptic tone was clear. Everyone knew exactly what Kodak meant, but nobody wanted to be the next target. Meanwhile, in the shadows, the real power players were losing control of the narrative. Reports leaked about underground meetings between execs and digital managers trying to figure out how to contain the fire. One insider claimed that Spotify, Apple Music, and several major labels had a joint conference call to discuss artist-driven misinformation. Translation? We gotta shut Kodak up before this turns into a movement. Too late. By now, his live had been downloaded, re-uploaded, remixed, and translated into 5 languages. You couldn't delete it even if you deleted the internet. The truth had gone viral. Not as gossip, but as gospel. And then came the footage. A blurry video started circulating on TikTok. Kodak walking into a courthouse, hoodie up, silent, focused. No entourage, no PR escort. The caption read, "He's fighting back for real." It wasn't confirmed, but it didn't matter. Fans didn't need confirmation. They had conviction. "He's going independent," one wrote. "He's taking them to court," said another. Suddenly, free Kodak wasn't about jail time. It was about freedom from contracts. It became a slogan, a chant, a movement, and when you turn a scandal into a movement, you become untouchable. A week later, Kodak dropped a snippet of new music. No title, no label tags, just a single bar that hit like a hammer. They took the crown. I kept my head. The internet lost its collective mind. That one line sparked thousands of reaction videos, conspiracy breakdowns, and think pieces calling him the modern-day whistleblower of hip-hop. Even fans who never liked Kodak before were now tuning in just to see what he'd say next. But here's the crazy part. While the world was obsessing over his every word, the industry was crumbling behind the scenes. One mid-level exec allegedly quit his label after refusing to participate in suppression tactics. A producer went live saying, "They really do blackball people when you don't play along." Suddenly, the whispers Kodak had started turned into full-blown testimonies. He'd cracked something open, and nobody knew how to seal it again. At one point, a rumor started spreading that several major artists were secretly in talks to form their own distribution network. Independent, artist-owned, decentralized. And guess who fans credited for inspiring it? Kodak. The man they called crazy was now being treated like the spark for a revolution. Even corporate America started sweating. Endorsement companies quietly froze contracts. You could feel the panic in boardrooms from the way their social media pages went oddly quiet. The same brands that plastered rappers' faces on billboards every month suddenly had technical issues. That's the thing about truth. It's bad for business. But Kodak didn't slow down. He didn't retreat. He kept feeding the storm, not through rants, but through music. His new track, They Watchin', dropped out of nowhere. It wasn't a diss, it was a prophecy. He rapped, "Every time I rise, they reset the stage. They want the pain, not the page. They sell my name, then call it praise. I play chess while they play charades." You could hear the exhaustion, the clarity, the pride. It wasn't anger anymore, it was awakening. He'd stopped begging for understanding and started building his own system. And that's when the conversation changed again. What started as Kodak's rant had become the industry's reckoning. Every podcast was dissecting it. Every influencer was reposting it. Every label intern was told, don't comment on anything Kodak related. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about every artist who'd ever felt trapped behind contracts, cameras, or clicks. He'd pulled the curtain, and behind it stood a truth too ugly to unsee. Fans started